Hey guys, this is Tauna. Today we're going to be talking about Nadu. Honestly, this card is absolutely busted. I'm honestly surprised that this card was printed, but I wanted to kind of talk about, this card because it is probably one of the strongest commanders that you could potentially be running currently. This is potentially looking at like a CEDH build you could do from this. But I wanted to, talk about a couple things to do with this, because if you're kind of like a new player or, someone who doesn't particularly run in, really high level pods, and you are looking at this guy and looking to build him, just kind of, hold the brakes for a little bit and make sure that you talk to your pod about it beforehand. This card has the potential to be, one of the most kind of disliked commanders that people are going to be running into. And there is the potential that, you'll be able to play it once, and then from there on out, you're going to be the arch enemy. This is very similar, like, Narset and Prosh, those commanders that when you sit down at the table, you're going to be like, oh yeah, this is my Nadu deck, but it's not that kind of Nadu deck. It's not that kind of thing, because there are just a crazy amount of combinations that you can pull out with this guy. So I'm going to talk about, some cards that are going to go really well with him. I'm going to talk about, some win conditions and all that kind of good stuff. So the first one here we're going to talk about is just really quickly going to say about, Displacer Kitten. Displacer Kitten is going to be pretty bonkers with this card because, it's got the flicker kind of built into it, right? It's going to target, so therefore it's already going to be getting a Nadu proc. Actually, let's talk about Nadu first as to why he's kind of so broken. So he is going to give each of your creatures. So first up, look, it just says creatures. As you kind of read this card, slowly it just becomes stronger and stronger. So creatures you control have, whenever this creature becomes a target of a spell or ability, reveal the top card of your library. If it's a land, put it onto the battlefield. Otherwise, put it into your hand. This ability can only trigger twice per turn. So let's ignore this part here, basically, because it's not going. It's going to be relevant, but it's not as big of a kind of stopping point as it's kind of coming out at. That's what we'll talk about in a bit. So anything that targets with a spell or ability is going to make it so that you reveal the top card, land onto the battlefield, otherwise into your hand. So, Displacer Kitten. You're targeting something and then you're going to flicker it. First of all, that's going to reset this triggers twice per turn, as well as the fact that it is targeting something too, so you're going to get a proc from that. But getting into more kind of stuff that's going to be more important here, stuff like Scute Swarm or Rampaging Beloffs, or even Field of the Dead, Springheart Nantuko, which is a new one there, or Spore Mound. So these here are all cards that whenever a land comes into your onto the battlefield under your control, you're going to create a creature, insect or saproling or a zombie or a beast or something. They are all very important for the combo here, because each of these that come in are all going to become creatures that you can trigger this on twice per turn, right? So you reveal the top card, like you trigger this somehow, you reveal the top card, it's a land, you put it onto the battlefield, boom, you've got another creature that you can then, do this twice per turn on. So these here all are ways that we can just get a whole bunch of more creatures out for just playing lands. And that's going to be what we're aiming to do here for a lot of our kind of combos and stuff. Get more lands out that are going to create more creatures in various different ways. How do we go about that? So there's a few different cards that can proc this really easily. The first one here being Lightning Greaves or Shuko as well. Shuko's gone... It's super expensive, but Lightning Greaves, a relatively cheap choice. You've got Umbral Mantle as well. Any card here that has Equip 0, because you are targeting with an ability whenever you do this Equip 0. So you can ping pong this around, equip it to stuff and everything. And each time you equip this two creatures, it's going to proc Nadu, revealing, the top card of your library. And then from there, you know, it either goes into your hand, or if it's a land, then it goes onto the battlefield, creates more things that you can then tap it onto again to just continuously create these huge things. There's other cards as well. Sway of Illusion and Sylvan Paradise all target multiple different creatures, so you can use these to get a whole bunch of procs at once to be able to get a whole bunch of things going on at the same time, and people can't interrupt halfway through because of the fact that, you know, this is going to keep going until, like, Nadu's ability will keep going until it's completely kind of done. You know, you're going to be able to just proc it so many times from these kinds of things. So from there, you know, creating a whole bunch more creatures, you know, and then just being able to continuously do this. There's obviously ways to be able to bring these cards back from your graveyard and stuff like, you know, Eternal Witness and everything like that. If you flicker Eternal Witness with your Displacer Kitten, then you're going to be able to just continuously create, you know, a whole bunch of things here. All right. Next up is stuff to, you know, do more payoffs. So Avenger of Zendikar, it's going to create a green plant when it comes in, but then you're going to be able to put +1/+1s on each plant. You've got a lot of kind of stuff that you can create plants from, Avenger of Zendikar, for example, or you could just create an insanely strong Avenger of Zendikar. Better options, you know, Roaring Earth. Whenever a land enters, put a +1/+1 onto a creature. You know, just create a huge creature from that. You know, if you want to make your Nadu huge, do that. If you want to create, you know, a huge Avenger of Zendikar, go do that. You got Bristly Bill here. Again, you know, put a +1/+1 on something when a land enters. And then because you're going to also be playing a huge amount of lands, right? You will then be able to just do this, just double all those land counters. You obviously want some kind of haste enabler, would be very nice to kind of use alongside this, but, you know, just doubling all of these with this. We've got Ashaya, so other options here. Ashaya, yeah. You know, stuff that makes it so that the power and toughness are equal to the amount of lands. If you put in, say, you know, a large amount of lands here, this is going to make it so that it is a huge amount of lands, as well as it's turning all your non-token creatures into lands as well. While, you know, that's not going to work with your Scoot Swarm or anything like that, but if you've got like other creatures out here, like the OG Scoot Swarm will be a forest land. So boom, you've got, you know, an insanely strong Ashaya. You've got, you know, Cultivator Colossus as well. Make an insanely strong one of those. Craterhoof Behemoth. You know, you've got a crazy amount of, you know, creatures out there. You just use this as like your finisher to make it really strong. Give them all trample and boom, just run people down. You've got Green Sleeves as well. You know, it's power and toughness equal to that, as well as it works in regards to creating more creatures as well. And then finally, you know, you can have a look at things like Maze's End as well, or, you know, just ways to be able to kind of end the game. I personally think that Maze's End would be a very interesting way to potentially build this with a whole bunch of gate cards. Now, the gates would obviously enter tapped, but, you know, once you kind of get it going, you could win via gates with this, which would be, in my opinion, a fun way. But, you know, once you kind of start getting the Nadu procs off, there's not going to be very many ways for you to be able to get stopped, as well as the fact that you are in like blue, right? You are in blue. You've got your own kind of counter spells you could potentially be drawing as you're kind of going and stuff. You know, as you're kind of playing a whole bunch of lands, playing a whole bunch of creatures, getting a whole bunch of, you know, really strong stuff out. I guess, you know, this is a crazy commander. It is a crazy commander. Just keep in mind that, again, as I said, kind of talk to your pod about it and stuff, because it's going to be one of those commanders that, similar to how Voja was for quite a while, and I think, you know, Voja potentially is still now, people are going to look at it and you're going to be like, you know, my Voja's mostly wolves, don't worry, guys. You know, you've got to kind of just keep in mind that people will potentially aim you from that. But I hope you guys had a wonderful day, and goodbye.